I think banking in general can be, at least opening a small business can be really intimidating.
Yeah.
It has never felt that way working with Bremer. Our business wouldn't exist without an SBA loan. Bremer swooped in, held us under their wing, and walked us through it. And we ended up getting everything we needed. Bremer sees us. I mean, like, really sees us.
They're our cheerleaders behind closed doors, and who knew it was going to be our bankers?
I know, right?
It's Not Your Fault is a podcast for parents, caregivers, and young people navigating the world and its challenges. Here's your host, Brandon Jones.
Greetings, everybody, and welcome back to another installment of It Is Not Your Fault, a teen mental health podcast. I am your host, Brandon Jones, and on today's episode, we are going to be discussing how to help adolescents deal with online embarrassment. How to help adolescents, the young people in your life, deal with online embarrassment. You know, there's actually a subtitle to today's podcast as well, which is not just online embarrassment, but social pressure in a social media dominated world. This topic came to me after seeing a video that went viral on social media this week of two track stars. These were two young ladies who are in high school, both track athletes, where you see one track athlete get struck with a baton by another their athlete in the middle of a meet. They are literally racing, and one young lady gets struck by another young lady with a baton, and it has caused quite a stir in the social media world because some people are really not saying, they're asking, was this intentional or was this not intentional of a hit? And then from there, the video goes viral. Their local news stations, this is in the state of Virginia, pick up the stories. First, the young lady who was victimized by the hit, she was on the news first with her parents and was interviewed about her experience. And then shortly after that, the young lady who did the hit, we'll say the person who's been accused of the violent act, had her own interview as well on the local news, minus a parent. We didn't see, well, I think we seen her father later, but we're going to focus on the initial interview. And I'm not here to determine if it was an intentional attack or not. What I am here to talk about is the emotional response from both of these young ladies. That stood out very clear to me as a mental health professional, as someone who does this work with parents, caregivers, youth workers, and adolescents themselves. That was very striking to see how both of these young ladies are dealing with the response to this incident. Neither one of these young ladies expected to go viral. I'm sure the young lady did not expect to get hit in the middle of one of her track meets. And and honestly, I'm not sure that the other young lady had the intent to harm someone. I don't know what happened. I think that we're getting a lot of mixed perspectives. It was a heat of the moment type of situation. Both young ladies were, in the middle of a meet, and there was some tugging, and there was some a little back and forth. I'll say physicality between the two ladies, but nothing unusual for track athletes in this particular type of race. It's not uncommon for runners to kind of bump one another as they go by and things of that nature. And this is a relay race because these ladies have batons. And in the video, you do see the young lady get hit. Actually, you actually see her get struck twice. And again, the initial hit, I can't tell if that was intentional or not. The second hit does look intentional, but also the young lady was veering into the young lady that was hit was veering into the other one's lane and got struck again. So she's in the middle of running, boom, hits her once. She's still in the middle of running and boom, hits her twice. And then you see the young lady fall to the side. And again, I think the second hit was probably more due to just the motion of the running, and the girl kind of fell into the pathway, but it does look intentional. So I don't know if it is or not. One party is claiming that it is not intentional, which is the person who's being charged with the violent act, not charged because there's no actual charges legally right now, but public opinion, charged by public opinion. And then the young lady who was struck, as of right now, they are not planning to press any charges. But again, It's a viral video. You can find it. Just Google track star gets hit or track runner gets hit, and I'm pretty sure you'll find it. That's not really the focus. The focus is what these young ladies were saying in their interviews and the amount of emotional pressure that both of these young ladies have due to the viral nature of this event. And I think this is something that we have to keep very, very at the front of our minds in this world, the social media dominant world, that our children are responding to their perception, their image, their clout, their status online. And the young lady who got hit, she's embarrassed. She's also hurt physically, but mentally, she's embarrassed that this happened to her. She's apparently she's a really good track athlete. She's, known at least in her state for her abilities. And this is a big embarrassment for her and what she's accomplishing as a young athlete. And then for the other young girl, who's being accused of being the victimizer and the person who intentionally hit her, she's just faced the onslaught of criticism. People who don't know her or found her on social media, they're saying things to her. These girls are 16, 17 years old. These are young women. They are trying to figure out life, and they are facing all sorts of pressure due to this online experience. I think this highlights something that many of our kids deal with, whether not on this scale all the time, but definitely on a day-to-day basis. Is how am I perceived? What is happening? Who's saying what to me? Am I being targeted? Am I important? And they're really doing something that Kanye West actually famously said: crowdsourcing their self-esteem. We don't want that for our kids, but in this culture where it's so common, this is something that happens, is that self-esteem is definitely pumped up and drawn out when it comes to social media. So I put a little piece together, a little article together about this. I'm going to read a little bit of that and give some tips on how we can help the young people in your life deal with that social pressure of social media and that online embarrassment. So in a world where likes, shares, and comments often feel like currency, adolescents are navigating an intense and sometimes unforgiving landscape. Social media, for all its connectivity and entertainment, can also be a breeding ground for embarrassment, anxiety, and relentless social pressure. A single awkward post, a misunderstood comment, or an embarrassing video can feel like the end of the world to a teenager. As adults, whether parents, caregivers, educators, or mentors, understanding how to help adolescents cope with these challenges is a critical step for their mental health and their emotional well-being. And again, this is very important. So I'm going to share a few things that we can do to help these young people if we find them in this space of online embarrassment or social pressure. So for teens today, social media isn't just a pastime, it is an extension of their social lives. And this is very true. I mean, it's an extension of my personal life too. And I'm a geriatric millennial. I'm an old guy. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, and those are just the ones we know about. These kids are on stuff that we are not hip on just yet. And even newer apps like Be Real are where friendships form, identities develop, and social statuses are measured. But with this comes a heightened sense of vulnerability, which is what we're talking about. These young people don't know how to deal with adversity. They haven't fallen off the bikes like we did. They haven't been told to get your butt in the house by the neighbor. They weren't told to come in before the lights will go on. This is a different generation. They get instant gratification. Their lives are very convenient and comfortable. And they don't face a lot of pressure. They don't face a lot of problem solving on their own. So this is what the problem solving looks like today. This is what the tinkering and figuring out how stuff works today looks like. It's social. And a lot of our kids don't have the social emotional intelligence developed just yet, or the coping skills to deal with the pressures when they show up. So we struggle with them often. So online embarrassment, whether it is a unflattering photo, a private moment that goes public, or a misguided post, can feel permanent in the digital world. Social pressure to maintain a curated image, racked up followers, and stay relevant adds another layer of stress. So how can we help? Here are my tips on how we can help. Number one, We have to normalize for these kids. And I know that's one of those words that becomes a trigger word. We got to normalize, we got to normalize. But we really do have to normalize that embarrassment is a natural part of life. Everything ain't supposed to be squeaky clean, and everything ain't supposed to be edited, and everything's not supposed to be presented in this cute package all the time. But in social media world, you get a lot of that because there's teams behind people have editing skills, there's amazing apps, there's AI. You don't have to do much these days. But we have to understand that you will be embarrassed. Stuff's gonna happen. You're gonna trip and fall. You're gonna, sneeze. You're gonna have something pop out of your mouth. Like, you might start drooling or something like this. Like goofy stuff is gonna happen. Everything's not gonna be polished. And those are just silly moments that I'm offering, not as serious as being hit in the head with a baton. But hey, embarrassment is going to take place, and you can't always run from those things. So one thing that I would recommend for parents and caregivers and youth workers to do is to remember something that you can say, and you can always share, and you can always say, I remember doing something that made me want to disappear when I was younger. When I was your age, there was stuff that I went through too, but it didn't last forever. Now I barely even think about it, and neither does anyone else. So share a moment that you've experienced as an adult, to help them normalize that, hey, stuff happens, but it ain't the end of the road. Like, you can move on from this. The next thing, number 2, teach digital resilience. Digital resilience is the ability to cope with negative experiences online and recover from them. Encourage adolescents to take breaks from social media. When things feel overwhelming, teach them to step away in weakness and make sure that they are practicing some level of self-care. So encourage them to pause and reflect on what they're engaging with, what they're seeing. Help them reframe situations and understand, hey, this ain't the end of the world. It don't feel good right now, but you can move through this. It's something that we can do. You got to model healthy behaviors there. If they see you doing something opposite of what you're telling them, they ain't gonna listen to you. So you have to be able to engage them at the level that they're at, and then you have to also practice what you preach. Number 3, focus on their offline identity. Yes, they may be known as so and so online, but who are they truly offline? And for some people, that identity is getting thinner and thinner between the differences. We put so much of ourselves online now. We are who we are online, but you have to make sure they maintain a little bit of their own private life. You don't have to broadcast everything. You don't have to let everybody know how you're feeling or what you're doing, where you're at. All those things don't have to be something that is shared with the world. You can let pieces go and you can keep pieces for yourself. So it's important that they help develop who they are offline, and they do things offline, and they don't have to broadcast everything. They don't have to take a picture or do a boomerang of every meal they have. Like, that's not that important. Sometimes cherishing those moments in person are more important than letting people know what you're doing. Number 4, promote critical thinking about social media. So social media often portrays a highlight reel and not real life. So what we need to do is ask questions. Why are you posting this? What are you posting? What's your goal in posting this? Are you trying to reach something? Are you trying to get monetized? Like, what are we doing? Is a good question. So feel free to ask those open-ended questions and let young people think through their actions and why they're doing the things that they're doing and why they're setting themselves up. And then the next thing that I would say is just practice self-compassion over perfection. Nobody's perfect. Stuff's going to happen, but have some compassion for yourself. We're going to make mistakes. People are not always going to like us. People are going to say nasty things. And if those things do happen in your life, it's okay. You can still prosper. You can still move forward. And you can still maintain a piece of yourself and a piece of your identity beyond the moment of embarrassment, beyond the pressure that you may feel online. So those are going to be the tips that I'm going to share. There's a few more, but I want to encourage you to go over to the Facebook group to check it out. So there's 3 ways that you can connect with us. The first way is where you can find my article with a few more tips and the tips that I share today on Facebook. All you need to do is put in "Is Not Your Fault" podcast in the search bar. You can find us there, like the podcast, find good tips, tools there. Um, um, you won't be able to connect with me there. Sometimes I'm in, sometimes I'm not. There's a better way to find me, and that's actually on my personal website. My personal website is jegna.org. Almost said .com. Jegna.org, www jegna.org, where you can reach me, ask me questions, look for additional resources, and learn a little bit more about the work that I do at jegna.org. And if you like what I do and you like this podcast, hopefully you have subscribed, you definitely need to check out our podcast network. It's not just me here. There's a whole team of people who do some awesome, amazing work, and they share amazing content to help you navigate this world to the best of your ability. And that podcast network is ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. Again, ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. Check us out there. All right, folks, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Again, we live in this social media, this digital dominant world. It's not going anywhere. It's actually getting more and more improved. So we have to prepare our kids to navigate this as best as possible. Even if we don't understand it, we have to support them and be there for them, because this is their reality, no matter if it's online or offline. All right, take care of yourself, folks. Be safe, be constructive, be well, and I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.
To check out previous episodes of It's Not Your Fault, or to learn more about Brandon Jones, log on to ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com.
You know Shaletta makes you laugh, but did you know Shaletta Brundage can also make you think and boost your business? Media personality, activist, and comedian Shaletta Brundage founded Shaletta Makes Me Laugh to celebrate and share the best of Black culture. It's a podcasting platform. You can download 10 weekly podcasts hosted by African-American subject experts at ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com is also a production house, creating broadcast-quality commercial content. And Shaletta and her team of storytellers create powerful promotional campaigns to get businesses the brand awareness they're looking for. Some of Minnesota's top businesses trust Shaletta, and you can too. Get out the word about your events and products and get in front of communities of color with ShalettaMakesMeLaugh.com. She's got the power to help your business.
What's up, everyone? It's Shaletta. I'm here getting a phone for one of my newly minted teenagers with Xfinity Mobile. They've got great options, affordable plans, and solid coverage that works for our whole family. With Xfinity Mobile, my daughter can stay connected with me wherever she goes. And did you know when you sign up, you can get an extra phone line free for a full year? Switch to Xfinity Mobile today for more savings, more smiles, and more ways to stay connected.